Professor Larry Harris, he has been professor of finance and business economics. So he has been teaching both undergraduate and graduate level in the University of Southern California since many decades, since 1982. He was also the chief economist for the entity that we are all very, very aware of, United States Securities and Exchange Commission. So SEC for, I think, in early 2000s, if I'm not wrong, sir. And he has also been on the board of directors of Interactive Brokers, which is the only broker that we cover in the program, not because we have any association as such, but it's because that is the only broker which is so much relevant for the audience that comes in and who can benefit from the program like EPAT. And of course, he is also the former associate editor of the Journal of Finance, the Review of Financial Studies, and the Journal of Financial and Quantitative Analysis. So I think we would really love to hear from your experience, sir, and we definitely look forward to getting some technical as well as the industry generic suggestions or your words of wisdom from you. You have been part of so many amazing initiatives, some really big ones like Sarbanes-Oxley, as well as the mutual fund timing crisis. So all those things which were something which we have all seen and have heard and read about. So it's something which would really love to hear your experience and your suggestions and guidance for all of us over here. So with that, I hand it over to you, Professor Larry Harris. Thank you for joining in, and we look forward to your kind words of wisdom, sir.
Thank you, Nitesh, for that very kind introduction. I'll observe that some people look at my beard and ask questions about it. So the reason it's gray, I'll tell you how to get a gray beard. Spend 40 years at USC. I don't know that the USC part's the operative part, but and just for your amusement, people ask me, well, why did I grow the beard? And so I just share that. It's because I wanted to have hair again. It was the only way I could do it. Okay, congratulations, everybody. You've embarked on a course of study that is going to be important to your careers. As you know well, this is just the beginning. Knowledge is a lifetime knowledge acquisition is a lifetime activity, and if you want to remain competitive, you'll have to continue staying at the forefront of the profession, making sure that you understand everything. Some of you are already working, others will soon be working. You all know that the knowledge that you've acquired is a framework for understanding the true knowledge that you learn on the job. So I often tell my students that you go to business school not to learn business, but to learn about how to learn business. And it's the same with what you've done. You've learned a framework for understanding things. In your jobs, you'll actually figure out what you really need to know to be successful. You've learned a lot of technology, but I want to make sure that you also understand some of the economics behind that technology, and in particular when it's going to be successful. So, so you know that you have to do things well to be successful, but you also have to decide what to do and when to do it. And so what I'd like to do is address my comments today to this question of when you can expect to be successful. So it's about performance prediction. I know that you've studied performance evaluation, but now I'd like to talk about predicting performance. So when we speak about algorithms, as you're all aware, there are two primary uses for algorithms. There are those people who want to create proprietary systems because they're looking to build what we might call money trees. They'd like to get rich. And then there are those people who build systems to ensure that orders get executed more efficiently, that you get better prices, or that you put less effort, less human effort into the process, and thereby reduce the overall cost of trading. Of course, there are other purposes of algorithmic systems involving mostly the plumbing of exchanges and brokerages and so forth. And I won't be talking about that. Primarily talking about the routing of orders, the creation of orders for the purpose either of getting rich or for preserving capital. So those are basically the one perspective is the proprietary trader's perspective. The other perspective is that of the buy-side trader. Most of my comments today are about the proprietary trader. I'll note that the technology and tools that you need to address both types of problems are essentially the same. What's different is the judgment associated with success in those two different processes. If you're profit motivated, the judgment's very simple. Did you make profits? And of course, you have to do it ethically. If you're not making profits, then at some point the decision's very simple. You've got to quit, otherwise you continue to lose money. So that judgment is pretty harsh, and probably as it should be. On the buy side, the issue is a little bit more relaxed. The issue is can you improve the execution of orders that other people already want to do? So on the proprietary side, you don't have to do those orders, but on the buy side, typically you have to do the orders, though some of the orders might be limited, in which case they may not be executed if you can't get it done. So obviously, if you can do it better, you will get more of those orders executed. So judgment on the buy side is a little bit simpler, because it's not whether you are beating everybody else, it's merely are you doing better than you otherwise would have done. Of course, you want to beat everybody else, you want to be the best, but the judgment's not quite so strict. So let's talk about what are the determinants of success. You are all familiar with the absolute determinants of success. In electronic trading, it's basically speed. There are three needs for speed. You want to be first to take a trading opportunity because you're competing with others who may want those opportunities. You want to be first to provide an opportunity because being first in line means you're more likely to execute. If you want to offer liquidity, it's presumably because you're willing to execute at that price. And then finally, if you are standing offering liquidity and you decide that conditions have changed and you no longer want to do so, you want to cancel very quickly so that you can cancel before you get hit. If you no longer want to trade and you get hit, then that's not going to be good for you. So those are the three needs for speed, and undoubtedly you spent a lot of time talking about how to be fast. You probably spent a lot of time about market intelligence, artificial intelligence, neural nets, things like that, ways of aggregating information to bring it to the point of making a decision, and with the hope of improving the efficiency of a process. I won't talk much about these things. These are all the technologies that you've learned. I now want to talk about the economics of success. So the first thing to note is for proprietary traders, success is not about being fast. It's about being faster than everybody else. You're playing a zero-sum game where if you get a better price, somebody else has gotten a worse price. And that's clearly the case for contracts, but it's a zero-sum game for securities as well. Contracts are in zero net supply, so obviously if you win, somebody else is losing. When you look at securities, the right way to look at securities is relative to the market index. You're trying to beat the market index. If you can beat it, then somebody else has to underperform it. And the proof of that's very simple. The average return to everybody who holds securities is exactly equal to the average return of all securities taken together when properly evaluating both averages. The reason they're equal is because all securities that are available to be held are held by somebody. And so what that means is if somebody beats the market, then somebody else has to underperform the market. Okay, so in both cases, whether it's for contracts or for securities, the performance is a relative story. You're trying to beat other people. It's not about being fast. It's about being faster. And so if you want to perform well, you have to be better than other people. If it's about execution, it's faster and more clever, able to look in places that other people haven't looked, be able to get there first, things like that. If it's about the composition of orders, it's about organizing information better than other people can organize information. And so now the question is how can you figure out whether you're better? So if you're looking to managers, obviously you want smart managers, highly capable technicians, people with lots of experience. All of these things are absolutes. They don't win the game. You want smarter managers. You want the best technicians. By technicians, I mean the people who, I'm not referring to stock market technicians, technical trading. I'm referring to the people designing fast systems and the computer systems behind them and so forth. You don't want experienced people. You want people who are more experienced in the relevant areas. So again, it's all about relative. It's all about superlatives, not absolutes. And so when you think about whether you're going to be successful, you have to ask yourself, are you better than other people? And so this is very, very challenging. This is perhaps the greatest challenge in the markets, understanding where you stand relative to other people. So if you know you're on cutting edge and you suspect other people aren't, then that's a potential comparative advantage. Now, eventually you can learn about it. I mean, if you're trading and you're not successful, then it's probably because somebody else is better than you. But you'd like to learn this ahead of time. So the trick is to try to think about what you're doing and get a sense of whether you believe it's so innovative or so different from what other people are doing that you're likely to be successful. And this requires that you have a good sense of what other people know and do. And unfortunately, this is where the great difficulty is, because you're typically not going to know what other people are doing. So there are some technical ways to figure out how you're doing. Performance evaluation, various forms. You can do an event study of your trades and see what happened to prices before you bought. If prices were on average rising before you bought, you weren't buying as quickly as you could have or should have. Maybe you couldn't, but you should have. Obviously, other people know something that you wish that you had known, or they were acting on it earlier than you. So that would be one indicator that you're not doing as well as you should. And you need to watch those indicators continuously. It's very, very important. Winning is competing in a zero-sum game where you've got to be better, you've got to be faster, got to be more clever. Let's now ask, when are the tools that you've learned to use, when are they likely to be most successful, to give you the greatest advantage? So when you are dealing with quantitative tools, it gives you the ability to handle vast amounts of data that other people can't. So certainly people who are manually oriented. What are some of the advantages? If computers can look at many, many different things at the same time. If you're competing against, say, retail traders or trying to profit from their presence in the market, not necessarily trading with them, but trading in an environment where they're influential. The fact that you can see many more things than they can is advantageous, and that's a potential comparative advantage. Obviously, the fact that you can move much faster than other people can is a big advantage. The fact that computers can store history of what's happened in the past and potentially mine that history for value is another advantage. But now we need to be very sophisticated. That's only an advantage in a situation where the games are repeated. By game, I mean the trading situation, where the trading situation repeatedly in a regular way so that the structure isn't changing too much. In that kind of environment, machine learning can learn an awful lot. And if you have enough data, unstructured machine learning, like neural networks as opposed to formal econometric equation-based models, unstructured learning has the flexibility to discover things that you'll never know what it was, but for some reason it's successful. So those are the situations where the artificial intelligence is going to work well in a quantitative environment. The situation again is where the games are repeated, so the trading situation is repeated in a regular way, and there haven't been substantial changes. One of the determinants of success is recognizing when you're not going to be successful. If you're operating an electronic trading system and conditions change so that they're no longer similar to those that you studied to develop your system, that's an opportunity. That's a time when there may be great opportunity, but there's also great risk. And if you risk running those systems into an area that you don't know about or your systems don't understand because it's now new territory, you're now a gambler and not a professional trader or professional, whether trader is a professional either on buy side or proprietary side. So in those circumstances, you want to shut down if you're allowed to. So in some regulatory environments, if you're a designated market maker, then you can't shut down, in which case you scale back as much as you can. So again, thinking carefully about when you expect to win and when the tools that you are using will give you a comparative advantage is extremely valuable. So combine that kind of knowledge, always pay attention to those issues while you're working with the technical knowledge that you've acquired and will continue to acquire. That will make you successful. But let me remind you, being able to do extremely well what is not needed or can be detrimental to your health is no great advantage. The bigger issues are understanding the economics of when you should do what you should be doing. So being an expert at something that isn't needed is maybe personally gratifying, but it's not going to lead you to success. And the biases that are associated with personal gratification can influence your judgment. So you may enjoy what you're doing, but make sure that what you enjoy you're doing is going to be productive. That said, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, even if it's leading you to productivity, then you really need to find something else to do with your life, because life is too short. You've made a big commitment to get to this point, but that's all sunk cost at this point. So if, as a result of your current experiences, your future experiences, you decide that this isn't good for you, then you need to, now I'm speaking to you as a person, not as a market technician or anything like that. You need to figure out what else to do with your life. But while what you've done may be considered a sunk cost if your preferences change or your understanding of who you are changes, recognize that everything you've learned has restructured your brain to make you more capable of learning stuff in the future. So it's my hope that you all understand what you want to do and that you go forward and will be successful doing it. And for those of you who discover that your understanding or your situation changes, you've nothing to feel poorly about. Life is only forward pointing, and keep in mind that it's the future that matters, not the past. Try to learn from the past where it's relevant, as I mentioned, but it's really the future that matters. So this is my first Convocation speech, and I felt like I had to say something personal, and there it is. So thank you so much for this opportunity to share these words. And once again, good luck in your future. Do feel free to call on me if you think that I could be of any service to you. Take care.
Thank you so much, Professor Larry Harris. It's it was really amazing to hear your words of wisdom around both the determinants of success and kind of the edges that any trader can look out for, and also your really amazing words about the personal words about the life and how it is a forward-looking thing, and essentially what you said, the crux of it, that whatever has happened in the past is essentially a sunk cost, and we may have a great attachment to it, but future is what matters. So thank you so much, really appreciate it, and thank you so much for coming in. We are glad and honored to be someone who having you as the first convocation speech of yours for participants. It's really an honor. And once again, thanks a lot for joining in. We highly appreciate it. And thanks for sharing your words of wisdom. We all have learned a lot from that. And we look forward to being in touch, sir.
My pleasure.